In 2019, archaeologists cataloguing clay tablets in the British Museum noticed something. A cylinder seal from ancient Mesopotamia, roughly 400–500 years old, was carved with what looked unmistakably like a handbag, not a vague shape you could interpret as anything. A handle, a clasp, a geometric pattern you'd recognize on Fifth Avenue. And here's the strange part. The same exact design appears on pottery fragments found in pre-Columbian Peru. The same pattern, on opposite sides of the Earth, in cultures separated by 3,000 years and 6,000 miles of ocean. Nobody planned to notice this, it just showed up. To understand why this matters, you need to know how far apart these civilizations actually were. When this seal was being carved in Sumer, around 2500 BCE, the cultures of pre-Columbian South America hadn't even developed written language yet. They weren't in contact, there was no trade route, there was no shared merchant class passing designs between continents. The Atlantic and Pacific were genuine barriers. The fastest human journey across either ocean in 2500 BCE would have taken months, assuming you survived. Most people never left the valley they were born in. The idea that they would independently invent the exact same decorative handbag motif is, well, it requires explanation. But first, let's be precise about what was actually found. The Sumerian cylinder seal measures approximately 3 centimeters in diameter, smaller than your thumb. When you roll it across clay, it imprints a repeating pattern, and the pattern unmistakably shows a rectangular object with a curved handle, rendered in the geometric style typical of Mesopotamian art. 4 other similar seals have since been identified in museum archives, not prominently displayed, not widely discussed, just there, in the quiet stacks where scholars do their work and don't announce things until they are certain. What's remarkable is that nobody was looking for this. The pattern wasn't discovered through systematic research. A graduate student was photographing artifacts for a database. She'd seen perhaps 2,000 cylinder seals that weak, endless repetitions of the sacred eye, the bull, the scorpion, the god with upraised hands. Her eye had developed a rhythm, and then somewhere around seal number 1847 something broke the rhythm. A shape that didn't belong to that world, a shape that belonged to a shopping mall. That's the threshold moment, not when you understand it, but when you notice you don't understand it. The small tightness behind the sternum, the half-breath held while the eye catches something in the corner and the head has not yet turned. Now skeptics have offered an explanation, a reasonable one. It's convergent design, like how eyes evolved independently in octopuses and humans. Given a need to carry things and a desire to do so elegantly, multiple cultures might arrive at the handbag shape. It's functional, it's obvious, surely that explains it. But here's what makes the skeptical explanation break apart. The Sumerian depictions include specific details, a clasp mechanism rendered in precise geometric form, a stitching pattern indicated by parallel lines, a weight distribution suggested by the proportions, the handle set at a specific angle to the body of the bag. These aren't accidental, these are design choices, and the Peruvian artifacts don't just share the general shape, they share these specific details. The clasp, the stitching lines, the angle, the proportions. We're not talking about the independent invention of a useful object. We're talking about the independent invention of luxury object design decisions, specific ones, in cultures with no reason to optimize the same way. So what's actually happening here? The conventional answer is silence. Most archaeologists haven't engaged with the pattern because engaging with it requires admitting you don't have an answer. And admitting you don't have an answer means sitting with the discomfort of a mystery that doesn't resolve into a published paper. The handbag seals exist in museum catalogues under vague descriptions: geometric motif, ceremonial cylinder, ritual artifact. Not handbag, never handbag, because naming it commits you. There are theories, though, whispered ones. Some researchers have proposed that the shape isn't a handbag at all. It's a representation of a symbolic container used in Sumerian ritual, and that humans everywhere might spiritually understand the vessel you carry as the fundamental metaphor for holding what matters. That the design independently emerged as a visual language for that metaphor. It's elegant, it's scholarly, it dodges the hard question entirely. Other theories lean into diffusionism, the idea that contact between civilizations was more extensive than we've acknowledged, that Sumerian trade networks extended further than we thought, that there were seafaring routes we've lost the evidence of, that somewhere between Mesopotamia and Peru, a merchant or an artifact or a traveler brought the design, and it took root in cultures that had no written record to document the exchange. But this requires accepting that our archaeological map of ancient trade is fundamentally incomplete, that there are chapters we've genuinely lost. Some scholars are comfortable with that, most aren't. The truth is simpler and stranger. The pattern exists, and we don't have a confident explanation. The handbag seals were created by a civilization that understood the object in enough detail to render specific design elements. The Peruvian artifacts echo those same elements with an accuracy that challenges coincidence. The two cultures had no documented contact. The timeline doesn't allow for easy transmission, and mainstream archaeology has responded by not responding, by filing it away. by letting the quiet accumulation of unexplained examples become background noise. But here's what matters: you now know something most people don't, not something hidden by conspiracy, something hidden by simply not being amplified, something that exists in plain sight in museum archives, waiting for someone to decide that the mystery is worth discussing more than the explanation. The pattern was always there, in the British Museum, in the stacks, in photographs, in databases. Nobody was lying to you about it, they just weren't looking. And now that you're looking, the question doesn't leave, it stays, it sits. It makes you wonder what else is in those archives, filed under vague names, waiting for someone to notice that it doesn't fit. That's the real discovery, not the handbag. The realization that our map of the ancient world has blanks we've accepted as normal, holes that might contain answers we're not even asking the right questions to find yet.